Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. May the mercy and blessings of Allah always be with all of us. Today, we will dive into the ocean of knowledge of the Holy Qur'an, a sacred book that has been a source of inspiration and guidance for humanity throughout time. This holy book is not just a revelation but a great miracle sent down to Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, bringing light and hope to a dark world. Its beauty lies in its language and structure, full of secrets, captivating the heart of anyone who reads it even just once. Every verse, word, and letter is carefully arranged by Allah, nothing is wasted or put together by chance. The Quran remains relevant through all times, from then until now, crossing various cultures, races, and generations. It was revealed to an unlettered prophet, yet its content covers various fields of knowledge, from religious studies, history, to modern science. There are stories, laws, and lessons that guide people to the right path. In fact, there are scientific hints that modern humans only began to understand after many centuries. However, there's another hidden wonder, a numeric miracle that many rarely notice. The arrangement of chapters, the number of verses, and the frequency of letters form amazing mathematical patterns, as if there's a secret code waiting to be explored. How could a human arrange a book with such a complex mathematical structure gradually over 23 years without any mistakes or changes? These numerical patterns become the signature of the Creator, proving that every element is under Allah's control and nothing escapes His knowledge. This is a scientific miracle that invites us to think, study, and draw closer to Allah with deep admiration. Today we will explore some interesting examples of numeric patterns in the Quran, which prove the greatness and uniqueness of this book. The goal is not to be obsessed with numbers, but to increase our certainty in the Quran's greatness and strengthen our faith in Allah. May our hearts be more attached to the Book of Allah, appreciating every one of His words and always striving to understand and practice its teachings in daily life. To really understand the number patterns woven into the Quran, we first need to look at the wider world of ancient texts and the way of thinking that created them. This journey will show how the Quran stands at a crossroads between divine revelation and humanity's long-standing effort to understand the universe through language and numbers. Subchapter 2.1 The Beginning of Sacred Writing. Long before the Quran, civilizations like Sumer, Babylon, Greece, and Egypt wrote down their beliefs, laws, and myths on clay and papyrus. These ancient texts didn't just record history, they held knowledge, often using symbolic numbers. For example, the number 7 often appears in Babylonian myths, while the Greeks greatly respected the triad, seeing harmony in the number 3. The Torah, another ancient holy book, is full of codes and number patterns like the 613 commandments or the importance of the number 40. These traditions laid the groundwork for later sacred texts, including the Quran, to use numbers as carriers of meaning. Subchapter 2.2 Numerology in Ancient Civilizations. This fascination with numbers wasn't limited to religious texts. Ancient mathematicians and philosophers, from Pythagoras in Greece to Indian scholars, saw numbers as the basic building blocks of reality. Pythagoras is famous for teaching all is number, and his followers looked for hidden meanings in number relationships, triangles, squares, and ratios that seemed to control the heavens and the earth. In the Arab world, the Abjad system gave numerical values to letters, allowing words and phrases to be interpreted numerically, a practice similar to the gematria tradition in Hebrew. Subchapter 2.3 The Quran and its unique mathematical signs. When the Quran was revealed in the 7th century in Arabia, it entered a world already familiar with the mystical and practical power of numbers. But the Quran took this further. Its structure, word counts, and even the arrangement of its chapters seemed to follow complex numerical patterns, some similar to ancient traditions, others completely unique. For example, the division of chapters into muqatta'at and non-muqatta'at, or the repeated appearance of numbers like 7, 12, and 40, invites us to think about deeper meanings. The use of numbers in the Quran connects the ancient world's reverence for numerical harmony with a new divinely guided message. Subchapter 2.4 Examples of number patterns in holy books. Let's look at some interesting examples. In the Bible, the creation story happens in 7 days, a motif similar to the 7 heavens and 7 earths in the Quran. The number 19, considered important in some Quranic studies, appears as a structural code, with certain chapters and verses aligning with this number in a way that invites mathematical analysis. These echoes show a similar ancient fascination with numbers as signs. Verses that point to something greater than themselves. Subchapter 2.5, the influence of earlier traditions on Qur'anic numerology. While the Quran asserts its divine origin, scholars have long noticed that its numerical complexity is connected to, and sometimes goes beyond, earlier traditions. For example, the influence of the Abjad system is seen in the mysterious letters at the beginning of certain chapters, whose numerical values have inspired centuries of study. The Quran inherited and transformed the ancient world's love for numbers, embedding it in a sacred text whose patterns continue to puzzle and inspire. As we continue, remember, the number patterns in the Quran are not isolated, unique features. It's the latest chapter in a story that began thousands of years ago, a story where humans sought meaning in the mysterious language of numbers, and where the Quran emerges as a masterpiece of spiritual and mathematical harmony. Chapter 3.1. 114 chapters. The main structure. At the heart of the Quran, it's divided into 114 chapters. This number isn't just random, it's the backbone for many of the number patterns we see. Scholars have found that these 114 chapters can be neatly grouped: 85 chapters without the mysterious opening letters, called muqatta'at, and 29 chapters that do have them. This 85 plus 29 equals 114 division keeps popping up in analyses, showing a clear, intentional structural balance. In the real world, this kind of division is like how information is categorized in data science, or how genetic code is organized in biology. It's systematic, patterned, and has a purpose. Chapter 3.2. The Pattern of 12, an echo of Pythagoras. Another basic pattern comes from adding the numbers of chapters 2, 3, and 7, all chapters with single-digit muqatta'at, 2 plus 3 plus 7 equals 12. This number is just like the famous Pythagorean triplet, 3, 4, 5, where 32 plus 42 equals 52, and the sum of 3 plus 4 plus 5 also equals 12. 12 is a universal symbol. The months in a year, the signs of the zodiac, even the number of cranial nerves in the human body. In the Quran, this number showing up again and again points to a hidden harmony, as if the text is coded with the same mathematical logic that controls the cycles of nature. Chapter 3.3, the 237 pattern, the multiplication link. Take the same chapter numbers 2, 3, and 7 and multiply them together. 2x 3 times 7 equals 42. This matches exactly with Surah Ash-Shura, chapter 42, which is also a muqatta'at chapter. This 237 pattern acts like a bridge, connecting these basic numbers to specific chapters and showing a network of intentional numerical relationships. In math, these kinds of multiplication links are found in prime factorization, cryptography, and even music theory, where patterns repeat at different scales. Chapter 3.4. The 729 pattern, symbolic grouping. A more complex pattern appears with chapters 29 through 32. Add these numbers together: 29 plus 30 plus 31 plus 32 equals 122. But when we focus on chapters 30, 31, and 32, their sum is 93, and if we reduce it further, 9 plus 3, we get back to 12, just like the earlier pattern. The label 729 inches is symbolic. It might refer to 7x29 or just be a unique identifier for this group. This is similar to real-world encoding systems, like ISBNs on books or groups of protein codes in genetics, where clusters are labeled for deeper analysis. Chapter 3.5, the square and inversion pattern, Surah Kaf and Al-Buruj. Some patterns involve more advanced operations like squaring numbers and reversing digits. For Surah Kaf, number 50, the calculation 52 plus 02 equals sign 25 is highlighted, while for Al-Buruj, 85, 22 plus 52 equals sign 29, and when you reverse 29 to 2 and 9 then square them, you get 22 plus 92 equals sign 85. The way numbers, their digits, and mathematical operations interact here reminds us of digital encryption or error-checking algorithms in computer science, where inversion and squaring are super important for verification. Chapter 3.6, Pi and the Lunar Cycle, 22/7 and 29. In Surah Al-Buruj, 22 verses plus 7 equals 29, and 22 divided by 7 is close to pi, 3.14. These mathematical constants are fundamental in geometry and physics, and their connection to the Quran's structure is further highlighted by the lunar cycle, which averages 29.5 days. The real-world parallels between celestial cycles and the patterns in this book show a connection between the order in the heavens and the order within the text itself. Chapter 3.7. Real-world parallels and symbolism. Ultimately, each of these patterns echoes in the world around us: the division of time, the harmony of music, the structure of DNA, the balance of ecosystems. Whether it's on purpose or by chance, the presence of these patterns in the Quran invites us to think about the subtle math woven into the holy book and nature itself. As we continue, we'll explore how these patterns aren't just mathematical quirks, but they form the basis for a deeper connection between faith, reason, and the universe. Chapter 4.1. The Harmony of 12, from Sacred Text to Cosmic Cycles. The number 12 is not just a repeating theme in the Quran, it also echoes throughout the entire universe. In the Quran, we see the number 12 appear through the total of key surah numbers, 2, 3, and 7, which reminds us of the Pythagorean triplet and stands for being complete. Outside of the Holy Book, 12 rules the months in a year, the zodiac signs, and the cranial nerves in the human body. This universal repetition shows a hidden order, as if the same math signature is woven through both the divine text and the fabric of creation. Chapter 4.2 Pi and the Cosmic Dance, Circles, Cycles, and Sacred Geometry. Pi, which is about 22/7, shows up in the structure of the Quran, especially in Surah Al-Buruj, which has 22 verses, and when combined with 7, gives us the important number 29, reflecting lunar cycles. Pi is a basic part of math and physics, explaining the ratio of a circle's circumference to its diameter. In the cosmos, the moon's orbit, which averages 29.5 days, mirrors the same number pattern, connecting the geometry of the heavens with the number patterns coded in the holy text. Chapter 4.3. Prime factors in the language of creation. Patterns like 42 equals 2 times 3 x 7, found in Surah Ash-Shura, highlight the role of prime factorization, the basis of modern cryptography and digital security. In science, prime numbers are seen as the building blocks of number systems, important for data encryption, biological coding, and even musical harmony. The Quran's use of such patterns suggests an awareness of the basic math that underlies both information and nature. Chapter 4.4. Inversion, Symmetry, and Error. Correction. Lessons from digital logic. The operations of digit inversion and powering, seen in the relationship between Surah Al-Buruj, 85, and the number 22 plus 52 equals sign 29, then reversing 29 to 2 and 9 and powering it back to 85, mirror principles in digital logic and error correction algorithms. In technology, these methods make sure data stays correct. In philosophy, symmetry and inversion stand for balance and the repeating nature of truth, suggesting the Quran's patterns might reflect universal principles of order and validation. Chapter 4.5. The Golden Ratio and the Search for Aesthetic Perfection. While not directly coded, the Golden Ratio, about 1.618, often shows up in nature, art, and architecture, representing ideal proportions. The Quran refers to harmony and balance, and how close certain Quranic ratios, like 85 and 29:2.93, are to the Golden Ratio makes us think about the search for beauty and order, both in the world and in divine revelation. Chapter 4.6. The Fibonacci Sequence. Growth, Recursion, and Divine Design. The Fibonacci sequence is nature's blueprint for growth, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and so on. While the Quran's number patterns don't directly mirror this series, the repetition of basic numbers like 2, 3, 5, and 7 lines up with the early terms of the sequence. This parallel makes us think about the Quran as a text that codes not just guidance, but also the repeating patterns that underlie natural development and complexity. Chapter 4.7. Unity and Diversity. Philosophical reflections on pattern recognition. Finally, the way unity, tawhid, and diversity interact in the Quran's patterns mirrors the philosophical debate about the one and the many. Are these patterns proof of a single, unifying intelligence, or a natural result of looking for order in complexity? In the Quran, unity comes from diversity, just as mathematical harmony comes from the interaction of different numbers and operations. Together, these connections explain how the Quran's number patterns are not strange, isolated things, but universal echoes, a reflection of the same logic that rules math, science, and human thought. As we continue, we'll see how these insights invite us to explore the connection between faith, reason, and the cosmos itself. As we dive deeper into the world of numbers in the Quran, a big question comes up. how do we really measure these complex patterns in a fair way? To answer this, researchers have used many different methods. Each one gives us a special way to look at what people call the numerical miracles. In this chapter, we're going to break down each of these methods and show how each one can reveal different layers of meaning. Subchapter 5.1. First, mathematical validation, the basics, pure math. Here, researchers carefully look at sums, products, and ratios directly from the Quran's structure. For example, the 114 chapters are split into 85 non-muqatta'at chapters and 29 muqatta'at chapters. 85 plus 29 equals 114. Or the quadratic pattern seen in Surah Kaf, 52 plus 02 equals sine 25. By using math operations, they confirm that these patterns aren't just guesses, but real, verifiable mathematical facts that are actually in the text. Subchapter 5.2. Next, textual analysis. This method looks closely at the count of verses, words, and even individual letters, sometimes using old systems like abjad numbers. Think about Surah Al-Buruj, 85. Its 22 verses, when combined with the symbolic number 7, make 29, a number linked to lunar cycles and pi. Researchers also use this method to explore the mysterious muqatta'at, the disconnected letters at the beginning of certain chapters, looking for hidden numerical codes and possible meanings. Subchapter 5.3. Astronomical correlation. Another method is to connect the numbers in the Quran with things happening in the sky. By comparing patterns in the book with astronomical cycles, like the moon's 29.5-day orbit or the importance of pi, 22/7, researchers find that certain numbers in the Quran seem to echo the rhythm of the universe. Surah Yunus, 10:5, which talks about the counting of years and heavenly cycles, shows an example of this method, bridging the gap between sacred text and astronomical observation. Subchapter 5.4. Historical and comparative analysis. This method puts the Quran into the bigger picture of old knowledge. Scholars ask, were concepts like pi, the golden ratio, or Fibonacci known in Arabia in the 7th century? By comparing Quranic patterns with historical math understanding, they figure out if these patterns were put there on purpose, or if these discoveries are from modern math language being used again. Subchapter 5.5. Theological contextualization. Finally, theological analysis places these numerical findings within traditional Islamic thought. Researchers look at classic interpretations, like the interpretations of Ibn Kathir or Al-Jalalain, to see how these chapters and verses have been understood throughout history. This method makes sure that the exploration of numbers stays balanced, respecting the Quran's main spiritual and ethical message, while also recognizing the appeal of numerical harmony. Together, these different methods create a multi-sided framework for evaluating the numerical patterns in the Quran. Each method has its strengths, limits, and effects, reminding us that the effort to understand is just as complex and layered as the patterns themselves. In the next part, we'll see how these methods are put into practice, explaining the structure of the Quran in a way that's never been done before. To really get a feel for the amazing number patterns in the Quran, let's break down some of the most interesting examples, one step at a time. In this part, we'll use visuals to make each pattern super clear, guiding you through the logic and math behind these numbers. Each section will focus on a different pattern or way of looking at things, so you can see exactly how researchers came to their conclusions. Subchapter 6.1 Muqatta'at Division Pie Chart. Visualization. First, let's visualize how the 114 chapters of the Quran are split into muqatta'at and non-muqatta'at chapters. Imagine a pie chart, 85 slices for the non-muqatta'at chapters, and 29 slices for the chapters that start with those mysterious disconnected letters. When we add them up, 85 plus 29, we get 114, which matches the total number of chapters. This simple breakdown, when you see it, really shows the intentional balance in the Quran's structure. Subchapter 6.2 Quadratic Echoes, Surah Kaf and Surah Al-Buruj. Now let's look at a quadratic pattern. Imagine an animated split screen. On the left, Surah Kaf, chapter 50. We take its digits, 5 and 0. Calculate 52 plus 02 equals sine 25. On the right, Surah Al-Buruj, chapter 85. Break it down to 22 plus 52 equals sine 29. Then, flip the digits, 2 and 9. 22 plus 92 equals sine 85, bringing us back to the chapter number itself. The animated equations and highlighted numbers show how these quadratic operations create an amazing numerical echo within the text. Subchapter 6.3-Pattern 12, Pythagoras and muqatta'at. Next, let's use a step-by-step flowchart. Start with the only single-digit muqatta'at chapters, 2, 3, and 7. Add them up. 2 plus 3 plus 7 equals 12. Lay this over the classic Pythagorean triple. 32 plus 42 equals sine 52, and 3 plus 4 plus 5 equals 12. Visual markers connect the Qur'anic pattern to this basic math idea, showing a surprising harmony. Subchapter 6.4-Astronomical Resonance Pi and the Lunar Cycle. Let's animate a lunar calendar and a circle side by side. The average lunar month is about 29.5 days. The math constant pi is estimated as 22/7, or about 3.14. Now, count the verses in Surah Al-Buruj, 22. Add the symbolic 7, and you get 29, echoing the lunar cycle. Dynamic overlays draw lines between the numbers, moon phases, and the value of pi, visually linking the mathematical patterns to the cosmos. Subchapter 6.5-Patterns, 237 and 729, Interactive Number Chain. Lastly, we'll use an interactive number chain animation. For pattern 237, multiply the digits of the single-digit muqatta'at chapters. 2x 3 times 7 equals 42, matching Surah Ash-Shura, chapter 42. For pattern 729, add up chapters 30, 31, and 32 from the 29-32 sequence. 30 plus 31 plus 32 equals 93. Subtract 9 plus 3 equals 12, echoing the earlier pattern. Each step lights up on the screen, helping viewers follow the logic and see the repeating motif of 12 unfold. By breaking down each analysis tool and visualizing the steps, these patterns become more than just numbers. They become an easy-to-understand language that connects faith, math, and the wonder of discovery. In the next scene, we'll explore how these patterns compare to those found in other ancient texts. Welcome to a new era of discovery, where old patterns meet modern technology. In this video, we'll see how today's digital tools and scientific discoveries bring the numerical patterns in the Quran right to your fingertips. This makes miracles not just visible, but also interactive. Subchapter 7.1, Digital Quran Explorers. Imagine opening your internet browser and seeing every surah, verse, and letter of the Quran laid out before your eyes. With platforms like Quran Code and other digital Quran analyzers, anyone can quickly see the distribution of muqatta'at letters, count verses, and even calculate numerical values. These tools let users ask their own questions, for example, highlighting every appearance of the number 12, or mapping mathematical relationships between surahs. What used to take scholars years to gather can now be explored in seconds. Subchapter 7.2, Seeing Astronomical Echoes. Modern astronomy apps and simulation software allow us to place lunar and solar year cycles directly over the Quran's numerical patterns. Using timeline displays, we can animate the 29.5-day lunar month and see how it echoes through the surah structure, showing a connection between the holy book and celestial mechanics. These interactive models help users understand the importance of pi, cycles, and the recurring appearance of the number 29 in real time. Subchapter 7.3, AI-powered pattern recognition. Artificial intelligence is changing Quranic studies. With machine learning algorithms, researchers can find numerical symmetries and hidden connections that would be almost impossible to spot by hand. AI tools can sift through huge amounts of text data, looking for Fibonacci sequences, the golden ratio, or other mathematical constants hidden in the text. This brings a level of fairness and speed that opens new paths for discovery. Subchapter 7.4, Augmented Reality, Patterns in Your Hand. With the rise of augmented reality, AR, you can now point your phone's camera at a printed surah and see digital layers highlighting numerical patterns, coloring muqatta'at letters, or animating the Pythagorean triple as you read. This hands-on experience turns abstract ideas into clear visuals, deepening understanding for students and curious minds alike. Subchapter 7.5, Open Data and Community Collaboration. Finally, open-source datasets and collaboration platforms invite anyone, no matter their background, to take part in this search. Online communities share scripts, visuals, and discoveries, pooling resources to explore the scientific miracles. This democratic approach to research ensures that the miracles of the Quran can be investigated, confirmed, and appreciated by everyone. Through these technological wonders, the Quran's complex patterns become more accessible than ever before, inviting us not just to witness but to interact with miracles right at our fingertips. In the next video, we'll go back to the beginning, exploring how ancient texts from different civilizations also wove numbers and meaning into their sacred fabric. As we dive into the world of Qur'anic numerology, we come to a really important crossroads. How do we tell the difference between patterns that mean something and just plain coincidences? In this part, we'll look at both sides of the argument. We'll check out examples where interpretations might have gone too far, and where being too doubtful might have missed something truly important. Chapter 8.1. The puzzling coincidence. When numbers just happen to line up. Imagine you're looking at a huge book with hundreds of chapters and thousands of verses. Statistically, patterns are bound to pop up. For example, splitting the 114 chapters into 85 and 29, or seeing the number 12 show up again and again, can be proven with math. But does that necessarily mean it was planned? Some mathematicians say that in any really big set of information like the Quran, coincidences will naturally happen. Case study: the 29 chapters with muqatta'at. Let's take the example of the 29 chapters that start with mysterious letters. While some people see deep meaning in these repeating numbers, others argue that with so many possible ways to group things, finding special numbers is just unavoidable. Critics warn that without strict statistical checks, researchers might accidentally only point out patterns that fit what they expect, what's called cherry picking. Chapter 8.2. Overinterpretation, when patterns become stories. On the flip side, there's a risk of reading too much into number alignments. Sometimes the excitement of discovery leads to interpretations that go beyond what the evidence actually supports. Case study: the Pythagorean number 12 and chapter groupings. Supporters of Qur'anic numerology might point out that the chapter numbers 2, 3, and 7 add up to 12, just like the numbers in a classic Pythagorean triangle. But does this connection mean something, or is it just a coincidence made bigger by a mind looking for patterns? Some scholars warn that such interpretations risk overshadowing the spiritual and literary heart of the Quran, turning deep faith into a numbers game. Chapter 8.3. The debate: can both sides be right? So where does the truth lie? In the lively academic discussion, some researchers support a balanced approach. They admit that while some patterns might be accidental, others, especially those that are repeatedly confirmed and checked, could point to an intentional design. The key, they argue, is careful methods and being open to both proving and disproving things. As we think about this debate, it's clear that the search for meaning in numbers is as much about our human desire for order as it is about the actual data. Whether you lean towards being doubtful or seeing amazing proof, the conversation between faith, math, and interpretation stays open and always fascinating. As we dive deeper into the world of Qur'anic numerology, a big question pops up. How do we find a good balance between being amazed and really looking at things closely, between the pull of faith and careful thinking? In this part, we'll check out 3 ways of looking at things that help us understand this delicate balance. Subchapter 9.1. The Harmony View. Faith as a guide, reason as a tool. For many folks, looking for patterns in the Quran isn't just a brain exercise, it's a way to worship. Faith gives us a special lens to see these patterns as signs, like verses, that point to a higher order. But our minds and careful thinking are still super important tools, making sure that our wonder is based on solid analysis. This way of thinking encourages us to be amazed by how complex the Quran is, while also studying it as carefully as we would any deep book. Here, faith and reason aren't fighting, they're having a conversation. Subchapter 9.2. The Skeptical View, the Dangers of Going Too Far. From a more doubtful point of view, looking for meaning in numbers can sometimes lead to only seeing what you want to see, or just wishing for things to be true. This way of thinking warns us about putting modern math ideas onto old texts. It reminds us that not every pattern is a message. The challenge is to avoid seeing miracles where there might just be things that happen by chance, statistically speaking. This view values being humble about what we know, pushing us to remember the limits of how humans understand things and what happened in history. Subchapter 9.3. The Integrated View, a conversation across time. Finally, some smart people suggest a way of thinking that brings everything together, where both faith and reason are respected as part of our human search for meaning. Here, the number patterns in the Quran are valued as a bridge, connecting scientific curiosity with spiritual insights. This view suggests that the real miracle might not just be in the numbers themselves, but in our ability to think deeply, ask questions, and try to understand things across many centuries. This way, studying Qur'anic numerology becomes a living conversation, inviting both believers and doubters to join in the shared search for wisdom. As we move forward, remember this: the beauty of this exploration isn't about finding all the exact answers, but about enjoying the richness of the questions themselves. As we stand at the crossroads of faith, math, and text analysis, this journey of discovery is far from over. While current findings show interesting patterns in the Quran's structure, they also open new doors for research. In this chapter, we'll give real suggestions for future research, each part showing a special way to make our understanding deeper. Part 10.1: Advanced Computer Analysis. With new steps in machine learning and big data, researchers can now look at huge Quranic datasets in ways never possible before. Future studies can use artificial intelligence to find hidden number patterns, check how special the observed structures are, and compare what they find across different translations and old writings. This approach promises to separate important signals from random noise, bringing more clear facts to this field. Part 10.2: Historical and Contextual Studies. To truly get the importance of number patterns, it's key to understand the history and language context of when the Quran was revealed. Further research can look into early Islamic numerology, explore how math ideas grew in the Old World, and study how old scholars understood numbers and symbols. Such studies can show if certain patterns were on purpose, by chance, or later ideas added to the text. Part 10.3: Comparative Religious Numerology. Another promising path is to compare the Quran's number patterns with those found in other holy texts like the Torah or the Bible. Are there universal math themes that go beyond religious borders? By mapping out what's similar and different, scholars can explore the bigger picture of numerology in spiritual writings and what it means for talks between religions. Part 10.4: Theological and Philosophical Views. Number patterns bring up deep questions about purpose, meaning, and how much humans can interpret. Future research should involve religious thinkers and philosophers to carefully look at what these patterns mean for beliefs, interpretations, and the way science works. Can math be a bridge between what we see and what we don't, or does it risk making sacred mystery into just numbers? Part 10.5: Visual and Interactive Learning Tools. To make these complex ideas easy to get, future projects could create interactive visuals, learning platforms, and digital tools. By letting users explore number patterns themselves through charts, graphs, and simulations, researchers can get more people involved and inspire the next group of scholars. In short, the study of Quranic numerology is a lively field, inviting teamwork across different subjects, cultures, and traditions. Each suggestion is a step towards a deeper understanding, reminding us that the search for meaning is as endless as the patterns we aim to understand. Speaker 1. Alright, here's an interesting question to kick things off. What if ancient sacred texts, ones revered for centuries, actually hold complex mathematical codes, hidden patterns within them, connecting them to big concepts like, Pythagoras, pi, maybe even the golden ratio? Imagine the kind of hidden harmony between faith and numbers. It's certainly a mind-bending idea, isn't it? Yeah. Something so ancient could have these layers of sophistication that we're only now uncovering with modern tools. Speaker 2? Exactly. And that's what we're diving into today. Welcome, everyone. We're unraveling a really fascinating field of study here: the exploration of numerical patterns embedded within the structure of the Quran itself. This isn't just like counting random words, it's about finding sophisticated mathematical relationships, often linked to specific chapters, surahs, and even individual verses. Our mission today is to take you on a bit of a journey through these proposed patterns. We'll look at how researchers have found connections or potential connections between the Quranic surahs and some fundamental ideas. Speaker 1. And we're going to explore whether these findings truly strengthen the concept of the Quran's scientific miraculousness, or ijaz ilmi, as it's termed in Islamic tradition. For this, we're drawing primarily from a recent concept paper that really delves into these numerical relationships. Specifically, it focuses on Surah Kaf, which is chapter 50, Surah Al-Buruj, chapter 85, Ash-Shura, chapter 42, and also a group called the Alif Lam Mim Surahs. Speaker 2, that's chapters 2 through 37, and then there's the group of 29 through 32. Speaker 1, got it. So let's start maybe with the foundational idea, this concept of miraculousness in mathematics. For believers, the Quran is understood to have an inherent quality called miraculousness. Traditionally, it often referred to its extraordinary linguistic beauty, its unique style, something that couldn't be replicated. Speaker 2, right. The language itself. Speaker 1, exactly. But more recently, modern scholars have also been exploring its structure, its potential scientific insights. There's even a verse in Surah Al-Hijr 15:9 that talks about the divine preservation of the Quran, which is linked to this structural integrity. Speaker 2, okay, so that's the traditional background. Now, how do modern explorations fit in? Researchers' concepts today, with computers and mathematics perhaps not fully formed then, are looking for these numerical patterns. What's the goal? Speaker 1. Well, they're essentially looking for objective, verifiable numerical patterns, things you can actually count and calculate. The core question driving the research is whether these patterns, once verified, truly support that narrative of scientific miraculousness. Speaker 2. So, it's about finding concrete, measurable stuff in the text and then figuring out what that might imply. A kind of blend of textual study and mathematics, maybe a little theology. Speaker 1. Precisely. It bridges those domains. Okay, so what kind of math are we actually talking about here? Is it super advanced or more basic concepts? Speaker 2. It draws on some basic ideas actually, like Pythagoras. We all learned the Pythagorean theorem, right? The 3, 4, 5 triangle. Speaker 1. Sure. 32 plus 42 equals sine 52, right? 9 plus 16 equals 25. Speaker 2. Yes. But what this research highlights is something else. The sum of those numbers, 3 plus 4 plus 5 equals 12. Speaker 1. 12. Okay. Speaker 2. And that number 12 appears to surface repeatedly in different Quranic patterns they've identified. So, it's a basic concept, but its repetition is what's considered intriguing. Speaker 1. Huh. And what about pi? You mentioned pi earlier? Speaker 2. Yes, pi. Specifically the approximation of 22/7. Speaker 1, which is about 3.14. Speaker 2, exactly. And the surprising connection here is to astronomy, particularly lunar cycles. The average time between, say, full moons is approximately 29.5 days. Speaker 1. Okay, how does 22/7 connect to 29.5? Speaker 2. Well, the connection explored in the paper links it more broadly to celestial calculations and timekeeping. It points to verses like in Surah Yunus 10:5, which mentions the calculation of years and reckoning based on the sun and moon. Researchers suggest this 22/7 ratio appearing in certain contexts echoes an ancient awareness of these lunar cycles, which roughly relate to numbers like 29.5. The number 29 itself becomes significant. Speaker 1. Okay. So it's not a direct mathematical equivalence, but a thematic link through calculations in celestial cycles that potentially involve the number 29. Speaker 2. Precisely. And the paper also mentions other concepts like the Fibonacci sequence, 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, and the golden ratio, approximately 1.618. Those are part of the broader mathematical landscape they consider. But importantly, the research finds direct links for some patterns, like the Pythagorean sum or elements of the pi approximation, but not necessarily clear direct correlations for all concepts like Fibonacci in the specific examples focused on here. Speaker 1. Gotcha. So they're focusing on patterns they can directly verify within the structure and numbers. Make sense? Speaker 2. Exactly. So, with those ideas in mind, let's dive into some specific examples from the surahs. Starting at the big picture, the Quran has 114 surahs in total. Speaker 1, 114 chapters. Speaker 2, right. Now look at this division. Researchers categorize them. 85 surahs are called non-muqatta'at. They don't start with those special disconnected letters. Speaker 1, okay, 85. Speaker 2, and 29 surahs are muqatta'at. They begin with those mysterious letter combinations like alif, lam, mim. Speaker 1. Alright, so 85 and 29, and if you add those up, Speaker 2. 85 plus 29 equals 114. Exactly. Speaker 1. Wow. Okay, that's a neat split. Speaker 2. It is. And the research points to other ways too. The 114 surahs appear to be numerically divided like 68 plus 46, which also equals 114, and other combinations involving the number 29, 29 plus 40 plus 45, 29 plus 41 plus 44, 29 plus 42 plus 43, all summing to 114. Speaker 1. So several groupings seem to land on that 114 total, often involving the number 29, which is related to the muqatta'at surahs. Speaker 2, that's the argument. The researchers suggest these precise and recurring divisions imply an intentional structure, perhaps beyond chance. Speaker 1, alright, let's zoom in. Surah Kaf, chapter 50. What patterns are there? Speaker 2, right. Surah Kaf, the 50th surah. The paper highlights a kind of quadratic operation on the number 50. Take the digits 5 and 0. Speaker 1, yeah. Speaker 2, square 5. Square 0, which is 0. So 5 squared plus 0 squared equals 25. Speaker 1, 25. Is that number significant elsewhere? Speaker 2, its significance is suggested in relation to the surah itself, which focuses heavily on the theme of resurrection. And there's another layer, the letter Kaf itself, which names the surah and is a prominent feature. Speaker 1, yeah, it has an abjad value of 100. Speaker 2, wait, what's an abjad value? Speaker 1, good question. It's an ancient system, like gematria in other traditions, where each letter of the Arabic alphabet corresponds to a specific number. So, Qaf isn't just a letter. In this system, it represents the number 100. Speaker 2, okay. So that adds another dimension to the analysis. Interesting. What about Surah Al-Buruj, number 85? Speaker 1, this one has some really interesting numerical echoes, as the paper calls them. Look at the numbers 8 and 5. Speaker 2, alright, 8 and 5. First, consider the number 29, which we saw related to the muqatta'at surahs. It turns out 22 plus 52, that's 4 plus 25 equals 29. Speaker 1, huh? Okay, 22 plus 52 is 29. Speaker 2, now here's the echo. Reverse the digits of 29, so you have 2 and 9. Speaker 1, right. Speaker 2, now calculate 22 plus 92. That's 4 plus 81, which equals 85. The surah number itself. Speaker 1, okay, wait. So 22 plus 52 is 29, and 22 plus 92, using the reverse digits of 29, is 85. Speaker 2, it's quite specific. It's the kind of pattern numerical analysis can find. And there's more with Surah Al-Buruj. It has 22 verses. Speaker 1, okay, 22. Remember our discussion about pi and 22 sevenths? Speaker 2, well, 22 verses plus 7 equals 29 again. Speaker 1, 29 again, and 22 sevenths connects to pi. Speaker 2, exactly. Connecting 22 sevenths to pi and linking it back to astronomical calculations like the 29. 5-day lunar cycle approximation, the recurrence of 29 linking verse counts, pi approximations, and square digit calculations is presented as a significant convergence. Speaker 1. That's a dense cluster of connections around Surah 85 and the number 29. Okay, let's talk about those muqatta'at letters again. You mentioned a pattern 12? Speaker 2. Yes, pattern 12 or the 12 pattern. This comes from the muqatta'at surahs that have single-digit chapter numbers. Speaker 1. Single digit. Okay, like Surah 2 Al-Baqarah, Speaker 2 exactly, Surah 2, Surah 3 Al-Imran, and Surah 7 Al-Araf. These are the only single-digit surahs that begin with muqatta'at letters. Speaker 1, alright, 2, 3, and 7, add up their numbers. 2 plus 3 plus 7 equals 12. Speaker 2, 12. There's that number 12 again, like from the Pythagorean sum. Speaker 1, precisely. And this leads directly into pattern 237, the 237 pattern. Remember Surah Ash-Shura? Speaker 2, yeah, the 42nd surah. Speaker 1, look at the number 42. It's a direct product of those digits from the 12 pattern. 2 times 3 times 7 equals sign 42. Speaker 2, wow, okay, so the sum of those early muqatta'at surah numbers is 12. And their product gives a later surah number 42. Speaker 1. That's the correlation being made. It suggests an encoding, linking these specific chapters numerically. Speaker 2. Alright, another pattern mentioned is the 729 pattern. What's that about? Speaker 1. The 729 pattern is symbolically associated with a consecutive group of surahs. Chapters 29 through 32. This includes Surah Al-Ankabut, Al-Rum, Luqman, and As-Sajda. Speaker 2. Okay, Surahs 29, 30, 31, 32. First sum their surah numbers, 29 plus 30 plus 31 plus 32, which equals 93. Speaker 1, 93. Okay, Speaker 2. Now do a numerical reduction on 93. Add its digits. 9 plus 3 equals 12. Speaker 1, 12. Again, it mirrors the 12 pattern from the 237 group. Speaker 2, exactly. This is another instance where this number 12 emerges from summing surah numbers in a specific group. The label pattern 729 seems to act more as a symbolic identifier for this group, 29, 32, perhaps related to other properties not fully detailed in this overview. But the key result shown is the reduction to 12. Speaker 1, alright, these are some pretty intricate patterns. How exactly do researchers find them? What's the methodology? Speaker 2, It's definitely an interdisciplinary approach. It really starts with rigorous numerical analysis. This means carefully checking sums, products, ratios like we've discussed. 85 plus 29 equals 114. 42 equals sign 2 times 3 times 7, the squared digit stuff, just verifying the math. Speaker 1, so crunching the numbers first. Speaker 2, yes. Then there's detailed textual analysis, which can involve counting verses, words, sometimes specific letters, or using those abjad numerical values for letters. Speaker 1, right? The letter number system. Speaker 2, and there's also astronomical analysis, which tries to link some of these numerical findings, like the PI and number 29 connection, to known celestial cycles and phenomena. Speaker 1, makes sense. Speaker 2, and crucially, they also incorporate theological analysis. This means referring to traditional Islamic commentaries. The paper mentions Tafsir Ibn Kathir and Al-Jalalain, for example, to see how these surahs and verses have been historically understood, providing context. Speaker 1. So it's trying to ground the numerical findings in both mathematical fact and traditional understanding. Speaker 2. That seems to be the goal. Yeah. Speaker 1. Alright, so we've looked at the patterns, the methodology. Let's talk interpretation. What does it all mean? First, the basic math. 85 plus 29 equals 114, 42 equals sign 2 times 3 times 7, 93 reducing to 12. That's all verifiable, right? Like the numbers are just there in the structure. Speaker 2, right. The specific numerical relationships based on surah numbers, verse counts, etc. are mathematically verifiable facts. You can check them yourself. Speaker 1, so the numbers check out. The larger argument from the research is that this harmony, the way 12 keeps popping up, the pi linked to lunar cycles, these intricate connections, that these indicate miraculousness. Speaker 2. Yes, that's the interpretation offered. The existence of such complex interwoven patterns discovered centuries later using potentially unknown mathematical concepts at the time is presented as strong evidence supporting the idea of the Quran's divine origin and inherent miraculous nature. It suggests a design beyond human capability in the 7th century. Speaker 1. That's a significant claim, but we might need to touch on other ways of looking at this. Is it definitely design, or could it be? Speaker 2. Yeah. Speaker 1. Well, coincidence? Finding patterns in a large amount of data? Speaker 2. That's the main point of debate, actually. Coincidence versus design. Critics might argue that with a large text and a flexible set of mathematical tools, you're bound to find some interesting patterns, especially in retrospect. It raises the question of how many potential patterns didn't make the cut. Speaker 1. And there's the historical context part too. You mentioned concepts like the golden ratio, or maybe even the full depth of PI weren't fully understood or articulated in 7th century Arabia. Speaker 2. Exactly. That doesn't mean the patterns aren't in the text structure now, but it complicates the argument of intentional encoding versus patterns recognized or interpreted later. Were they deliberately placed there with that mathematical understanding, or are they inherent properties of the structure that we are now describing using our mathematical language? Speaker 1. Yeah, that's a subtle but important distinction. And what about the theological side? Is there a risk here? Speaker 2. Yes, and the research paper itself seems to acknowledge this. There's a potential risk of, say, overinterpretation, or focusing so much on numerical codes that it overshadows the Quran's primary spiritual, ethical, and moral guidance. Speaker 1. Like losing the forest for the trees, perhaps? Speaker 2. Kind of. It's about balance. Traditional Islamic thought often emphasizes ayat kauniyah, God's signs in nature, in creation. Relying solely on complex numerical systems for proof could shift focus away from a broader understanding of divine signs. So balancing this numerical exploration with the core message is crucial. Speaker 1. Alright, that makes a lot of sense. So, in closing, we've taken a journey into the world of these incredibly intricate numerical patterns proposed within the Quran. Speaker 2. Yes. From the basic division of the 114 surahs to Pythagorean echoes with the number 12, connections to PI and lunar cycles through the number 29, and these specific patterns or patterns linking surah numbers. We've seen how these patterns themselves, the numbers, can be mathematically verified and how researchers interpret them as potentially supporting the Quran's scientific miraculousness. Speaker 1, right. But as always with these kinds of deep dives, it doesn't necessarily end with a neat answer. Speaker 2, no, definitely not. The patterns are there. They're mathematically intriguing, undeniably fascinating, but what they mean theologically, whether it's definitive proof of design or something else, That remains more open for discussion, doesn't it? It's about balancing that mathematical truth with spiritual meaning. Speaker 1. Absolutely. It leaves us with a kind of final thought, perhaps. What does it truly mean when an ancient sacred text appears to encode mathematical concepts that might have been formalized later? Does it automatically point to a grand, unseen design? Or does it also invite us to reflect on how we as humans search for and construct meaning, how we look for order in complex information? It pushes us to think about what we consider miraculous in our modern data-rich world. Concept paper. Numerical patterns in the structure of the Qur'an. Integration of Surah Kaf, 50, Al-Buruj, 85, Ash-Shura, 42, Surah Alif Lam Mim, 2, 3, 7, 29, 32, and their connection to Pythagoras, Fibonacci, golden ratio, pi, as well as patterns 237 and 729 background. The Quran, as the holy book of Islam, possesses miraculousness, ijaz, in its language, structure, and scientific content. Surah Al-Hijr, 15, 9. Modern researchers explore numerical patterns that reflect mathematical harmony, such as the Pythagorean theorem, Fibonacci sequence, golden ratio, 1/618, and pi, 22/7. The main focus is Surah Kaf, 50th, muqatta'at letter Kaf, Al-Buruj, 85th, 22 verses, Ash-Shura, 42nd, as well as the Alif Lam Mim surahs, 2 Al-Baqarah, 3 Ali Imran, 7, Al-Araf, 29, Al-Ankabut, 30, Ar-Rum, 31, Luqman, 32, As-Sajda. These patterns involve quadratic operations, for example 5/5 plus 0 times 0 equals 25, Pythagorean triplets, 3, 4, 5, pi, 22/7, the 12 equal sign 2 plus 3 plus 7 pattern, the division of 114 surahs, for example 29 plus 40 plus 45, the 237 pattern from surahs 237, 2 tower 3x7 tates 42, and the 729 pattern, symbolic for 2932, with 29 plus 30 plus 3, 1 plus 3, 2, 1, not 2, 1 plus 2 plus 2.5, or 30 plus 3, 1 plus 3, 93, 9 plus 3, 12. Key question: how can these numerical patterns be measured, and do they support the narrative of the Quran's scientific miraculousness, ijaz ilmi? Study objectives verify numerical patterns. 85 plus 29 equals 114, non-muqatta'at plus muqatta'at surahs. Quadratic operations, 5/5 plus 0 times 0 equals 25, Surah Kaf, 2x2 plus 5 times 5 equals 29, 2x2 plus 9 times 9 equals 85, Al-Buruj. Surah Al-Buruj, 22 verses, 22 plus 7 equals 29, 22/7 pi. Pythagorean triplet, 3, 4, 5, 32 plus 42 equal sign 52, 3 plus 4 plus 5 equal sign 12. Pattern 12 equal sign 2 plus 3 plus 7, single digit muqatta'at surahs, 2, 3, 7. Pattern 237, 42, 2x3x7, Surah Ash-Shura, referencing surahs 2, 3, 7. Pattern 729, from surahs 29, 32 with 30 plus 3, 1 plus 3, 2, y 9, 3, 9 plus 3, pay 12, reflecting the 237 pattern. Division of 114, 68 plus 46, 29 plus 40 plus 45, 29 plus 41 plus 44, 29 plus 42 plus 43. Analyze the connection of patterns to Pythagoras, Fibonacci, golden ratio, PE, and patterns 237, 729. Measure patterns through mathematical, textual, astronomical, and theological approaches. Evaluate whether these patterns strengthen the narrative of the Quran's ijaz ilmi. Theoretical framework, miraculousness of the Quran. The Quran is preserved, Surah Al-Hijr, 15, 9, and possesses ijaz in its language, structure, and scientific content. Numerical patterns, though controversial, for example Rashad Khalifa's work, attract attention. Surah Kaf, 50, with 45 verses, the letter Kaf, abjad value 100, focuses on resurrection. 5/5 plus 0 times 0 equals 25. Surah Al-Buruj, 85, 22 verses, 22 plus 7 equals 29, 22, 7 pi, astronomically relevant. Surah Ash-Shura, 42, muqatta'at, 42, 2x3x7, 237 pattern, 53 verses. Surah Alif Lam Mim, 2, 3, 7, 29, 32, divided into group 1, 2, 3, 7, sum 12, 237 pattern, and group 2, 29, 32, 30 plus 31 plus 3, 2 at 9, 3 at 12, symbolic 729 pattern. Surah Yunus 10:5. Adada as Sininwa al-Hisab indicates time measurement during lunar phases, 29 5 days, relevant to PI and the 29/93 pattern. Mathematical concepts: Pythagoras, triplet, 3, 4, 5, 12, quadratic operations. Fibonacci, sequence 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. Golden ratio 1, 618. Pi 22/7. New patterns: 12 equal sign 2 plus 3 plus 7. 237, 4200, 3x7, 729, symbolic for 29, 32, reflecting 12, division of 114 involving muqatta'at. Methodology: mixed approach. Numerical analysis. Verify 85 plus 29 equals 114. 5 out 5 plus d exuates to 5. 22 plus 7 equals 29. 32 plus 4 2 while 5 2. 2 plus 3 plus 7 equals sign 12. 42 plus 2x 7. 30 plus 3 1 plus 3 2 and 9 3 12. Division of 114. Test ratios: 85 to 92, 93 versus 1.618. Textual analysis. Count versus /words/letters. For example, alif equals sign 1, lam equals sign 30, mayam plot of 4071, qf 100 100, 50 equals sign 50. Astronomical analysis. Connection of pi to lunar phases, 29. 5 days close to 29 muqatta at 93. Historical comparison. 7 the century knowledge versus patterns. Theological analysis. Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Al-Jalalain. Tools: manual counting, Quran code software, astronomical data. Analysis of new patterns, pattern 12, equal sign 2 plus 3 plus 7. Verification: surahs 2, 3, 7, single digit muqatta'at. Relevance to 12 months, Surah at Tauba 936, Pythagorean triplet, 3 plus 4 plus 5 equal sign 12, pattern 237, 42 ways to 3x7, Surah Ash-Shura, referencing Surahs 2, 3, 7, measurement prime factors 2, 3, 7, pattern 729, Surahs 29, 32, 30 plus 3 1 plus 3 2 plier 9 3 12, reflecting 237. 729 might be symbolic, 729x something or a label for 29. Division of 114, 68 plus 46 equals 114, both muqatta'at. 29 plus 40 plus 45 equals sign 114. 29 plus 41 plus 44 equals sign 114. 29 plus 42 plus 43 equals sign 114, involving 237 pattern through 42. Deepening, 2-digit surahs. 10 plus 11 plus 12 plus 13 equals sign 46, Surah Al-Akaf muqatta'at. Ratio 93:127, 75, not golden ratio, close to lunar cycle 29.5. Visualizations: pie chart for muqatta'at 29 versus non-muqatta'at 85. Bar chart for 237 729 patterns and 114 division. Copy code to HTML file for viewing. Expected results: numerical accuracy. All patterns: 85 plus 29 equals 114, 22 7 pi, 42 2x 3x7, 93 12 are true. Mathematical connections. Not direct with Fibonacci golden ratio. Pi relates to astronomy, lunar phases. 5. Qur'anic context. Emphasize signs in nature. Ayat kuniya, not complex patterns. Theological implications. Patterns are interesting but speculative, balance with exegesis. Discussion strengths. Harmony, 12 and 237 729 pi with moon, supports ijaz. Weaknesses, coincidence, modern concepts not known in 7th century. Risks, overinterpretation shifts spiritual focus. Conclusion and recommendations. Conclusion, patterns are mathematically valid, theologically speculative, measured through surah counting, mathematics, astronomy, exegesis. Recommendations: analyze abjad of muqatta'at, kaf equals sign 100. Avoid overinterpretation, interdisciplinary approach. Study schedule month 1, data collection. Month 2, numerical textual analysis. Month 3, mathematical astronomical comparison. Month 4, writing. Initial references: Quran, Surah Kaf, Al-Buruj, Ash-Shura, Alif Lam Mim, Yunus, At-Tauba, Tafsir Ibn Kathir, Al-Jalalain, Bukail, M. 1976. The Bible, the Quran and Science. Fibonacci literature, golden ratio, pi, prime factors, lunar cycle data, additional notes, visualizations to aid understanding. If improvements are needed, for example, abjad patterns of qaf, please let us know. Let's take a look together at how the Quran not only contains spiritual guidance but also holds truly amazing and mysterious basic number patterns. One of the clearest patterns is the number of chapters in the Quran, which is 114 chapters. This number is not just a coincidence, it carries its own meaning within the structure of this holy book. Out of those 114 chapters, 85 chapters do not begin with muqatta'at letters, while 29 chapters do begin with muqatta'at letters, the same number as the letters in the Arabic alphabet. This seems to signal that every Arabic letter plays a role in the uniqueness of the Quran. This shows that the Arabic language, with all its beauty and complexity, bows to the greatness of the Quran's highly organized and wisdom-filled structure. For example, Surah Kaf, the 50th chapter, begins with the letter Kaf. Interestingly, the letter Kaf is mentioned 57 times in this chapter, which is the result of 19x3, a number that often appears in Qur'anic numerical studies. The number 19 is considered a key in many numerical studies of the Quran. It forms the basis for various hidden mathematical patterns within the holy verses. Surah Ash-Shura, the 42nd chapter, also begins with the letter Qaf and contains 57 Qaf letters, an amazing symmetry that is hard to explain as mere coincidence. As for chapters beginning with Alif Lam Mim, if we add up their chapter numbers, we get 127. The total number of verses is 592, and if these two numbers are combined, the result is 719. Another interesting number pattern to study. All these numbers are closely related to the Arabic Abjad numerology system, where each letter has its own numerical value, adding another layer of meaning to the Quran. Surah Al-Buruj, the 85th chapter, has 22 verses, and this number is often associated with the ratio of pi, 22/7, a very important mathematical concept. The number 7 refers to the number of heavens mentioned repeatedly in the Quran, signifying the connection between revelation and the universe. All this shows that there are deep mathematical signals about the structure and beauty of the universe in the arrangement of the Quran's chapters. These number patterns are not just coincidences, they are very profound layers of meaning that urge us to continue exploring their secrets. It proves the harmony, uniqueness, and perfection of the Quran's structure, which cannot be matched by any human work. Every number, every arrangement, and every pattern carries its own message that adds to the beauty and wonder of the Quran. This numerical study opens the door to understanding the greatness and miracle of the Quran from a broader and deeper perspective, going beyond just daily reading. It invites us to continue studying, reflecting, and appreciating the miracle of the Quran, and to strengthen our faith in the greatness of Allah SWT. How do the number patterns in the Quran connect with universal mathematical ideas? The Pythagorean theorem, Fibonacci sequence, and golden ratio are often linked to balance and harmony in the Quran. The golden ratio, which you see in nature, is also found in the structure of certain verses and chapters. Pi, 22/7, is connected to Surah Al-Buruj, which talks about the sky and orbits. This connection builds a bridge between divine revelation and human reason. It shows that the Quran is not separate from logic and science. Math becomes a universal language that connects humans with divine messages. This strengthens the Quran's place as a guide for all time. How are these patterns studied? Researchers use direct counting, the number of chapters, verses, and the frequency of words and letters. For example, dunya, world, and akhirat, hereafter, are mentioned 115 times, showing balance. Mathematical ratio and proportion analysis is used to find hidden harmony. Some also link the structure of the Quran to astronomical events like the cycles of the moon and sun. It's important to stick to the standard Quran text, Razam Uthmani. Careful work and academic honesty are super important so we don't end up with made-up interpretations. Numerical studies must be done with a sincere intention to find the truth. It should be a tool to get closer to the Quran, not the other way around. Every discovery needs to be checked and confirmed in a fair way. Sometimes numbers and data can be hard for us to picture directly, especially if they involve big amounts or abstract ideas. This is where visualizing things becomes super important, because it helps us see information more clearly and in an organized way. A table or chart, for example, can show the balance of words like dunya, this world, and akhirat, the afterlife, in the Quran. Both are mentioned 115 times. By visualizing it, we can see this balance much more easily and quickly. It's the same with the words shaitan, devil, and malaika, angels, each mentioned 88 times. A clear chart lets us compare these numbers directly, without having to count them one by one. A pie chart also makes it easier for us to understand how the 114 surahs in the Quran are divided. 85 surahs without muqatta'at, disconnected letters, and 29 surahs with muqatta'at. Visuals like this help us see the structure of the Holy Book in more detail. A bar chart can show the number of the letter Kaf in Surah Kaf and Ashura, both 57 times. This makes it easier for us to spot hidden patterns in the text. Visualizing things makes mathematical patterns clearer and easier to understand, even for people who aren't experts in this field. It also helps us find new patterns that we might miss if we only looked at raw data. Plus, visualizing makes it easier to share discoveries with others, whether it's in presentations, discussions, or learning materials. The beauty of math in the Quran is better appreciated when it's shown in an interesting and creative way, mixing art and science in one display. This way, more people can appreciate the greatness and uniqueness of this holy book and understand the mathematical secrets it holds. The numerical approach opens up a new side of the Quran's scientific miracles. It lets the Quran speak in the language of science and math, which is perfect for modern times. Finding these number patterns makes Muslims feel stronger in their faith and brings them peace. Math is a language everyone understands. Numbers are clear to all, no matter what language they speak. The balance of numbers in the Quran can be a good starting point for talking about faith in a logical and fair way. This kind of study encourages people to research more in Islamic studies. It teaches us to ask questions, study, and find connections within the Quran. The result is a new generation of Muslims who are strong in their faith and love learning. Numerical studies are interesting, but there are risks. Sometimes number patterns are just coincidences, a phenomenon called apophenia in psychology. It's also dangerous if you get too obsessed and manipulate data to support a theory. The glory of the Quran doesn't need made-up proof. The main focus of the Quran is guidance for life, not just numbers. Numerical studies should be a tool to get closer to God, not to distract from the main message. The key is to find a balance between being amazed by numbers and sticking to the main message. Mathematical patterns in the Quran do exist and can be proven. However, interpreting these patterns requires care and balance. Believers see them as a sign of God's greatness, but it's not the only absolute truth. The balance between faith and reason is very important. Numerical study is a bonus, not the foundation of belief. The best approach is the middle way, appreciating numerical beauty without going overboard. The secrets of the Quran's numerical patterns are a sea of knowledge that connects revelation and science. The future of numerical studies of the Quran is vast. Systematic analysis of the disconnected letters with modern technology can reveal new patterns. Collaboration between Quranic scholars and mathematicians is important for solid results. A digital database of the Uthmanic script needs to be developed for transparent research. Educating the public about the beauty and limits of numerical studies is very important. Balanced forums and seminars can help people appreciate the numerical wonders of the Quran. May these efforts be blessed by Allah SWT, and Allah knows best.